Metroid Fusion is kind of a black sheep amongst the Metroid franchise. It received more of a mixed reception than most other Metroid titles for a couple of reasons. It was significantly shorter than Super Metroid, being able to be beaten in about 4 or 5 hours in a relatively leisurely playthrough, and it was a far more linear experience. Instead of having a large, open environment to explore, the player was often confined to a certain area and had a specific task to complete, though the manner of completing said tasks weren't always set in stone. Some appreciated the more guided experience, which allowed for a more specific story to be told within the game, and helped keep the player from getting lost, while others felt confined by this new approach. Personally, I enjoyed the tightly woven experience, though Fusion was my first foray into the Metroid franchise. If I'd started with one of the earlier games, maybe I wouldn't feel the same way. Either way, I'm glad that I was able to appreciate the somewhat guided experience that the game gave me. See, Metroid Fusion isn't just an outlier in the franchise because of the slightly different gameplay direction. No. It's also the only game in the series, that I've played at least, that I feel contains strong horror elements. It's fairly well known by this point that the Metroid franchise was pretty heavily influenced by the Alien movies, but Metroid Fusion took this a step further than the similarities present in the previous Metroid games. The other Metroid games placed an emphasis on making the player feel isolated and alone in a dangerous environment, but Fusion took that even further and trapped the protagonist, Samus Aran, on a space station with a dangerous predator attempting to hunt her down. Sound familiar? As Metroid Fusion opens up, we are shown the events that happened prior to the start of the game. Bounty hunter Samus Aran was working a job for Biologic Space Laboratories, escorting a research team on the homeworld with the now extinct Metroids, SR-388. While there, Samus is assaulted by an unknown organism later referred to as an X-parasite. En route back to the BSL research station, the X-infestation put Samus's life at risk, resulting in the medical crew attempting to remove Samus's infected power suit to save her. However, the suit was so integrated with her body that they were unable to remove all of it while she was unconscious. Running out of things to do, the medical team creates an anti-X vaccine out of a Metroid cell culture, hoping that a vaccine made from the exosoul predator might save Samus. All goes as it was hoped, and the X infestation within the bounty hunter is eliminated, with the vaccine also providing Samus with the ability to absorb X parasites. This newfound power will certainly come in handy, however, as the specimens that the research team brought back from the surface of SR-388 were infected with X, and it's now Samus's job to head into the research station and stop the infestation from spreading. As you play through the game, you travel throughout the BSL research station, navigating tight corridors and fighting off X-parasites mimicking a large variety of creatures, but they aren't the only threat. Early into the game, you encounter this scene. After removing most of Samus's power armor in an attempt to save her from the X-parasites, the pieces of her armor had been sent to the BSL research station for study, and as it turns out, the X that infected her is capable of using the pieces of her armor to mimic Samus herself. Knowing how much of a threat the bounty hunter is to their survival, this X, dubbed the SAX, devotes itself to hunting down Samus and eliminating her. Given that she is extremely weakened and the SAX is mimicking her at full power, Samus has little choice but to try to hide from and avoid her hunter whenever she encounters it throughout the game. And herein lies one of the strongest horror aspects in Metroid Fusion. The fear of being hunted down by something that you cannot stand up against, where your only defense is to run. Even though you only encounter the SAX a few times, they're the most tense and memorable experiences in the entire game. Whenever the SAX occupies the same area as you, the music track is replaced by a quiet track that is similar to a beating heart, and you can hear each footstep that the SAX takes. One of the encounters I find most personally horrifying is later in the game. In most encounters with your doppelganger, you are able to hide out of sight until it leaves, but this time the SAX patrols the room indefinitely. No matter how long you wait, it never leaves, which means your only remaining option is to try to run past. Easier said than done. Even this late in the game, the SAX completely decimates you, and your only real defense against it is to try to freeze it with your ice missiles, buying you a couple seconds of time to keep moving. Even playing the game recently to record this footage, this had me terrified. The SAX isn't alone, however. There were several other powerful monsters held on the research station that the X-Parasites kill and mimic. For example, in Sector 4 Aqua, there is, or was, I guess, a beast known as Ceres that moves at high speed, but by the time you find it, it has already been killed by the X-Parasites. Just a short distance away from Ceres' body, you find a boss fight against the parasite that killed and now mimics it. Seeing Ceres up close and personal, you can see some of the influence the Alien has had on this franchise, with the boss being reminiscent of the xenomorphs from those movies. And not only does Ceres look disturbing, but as you are warned when you first enter the sector, Ceres moves extremely fast, which makes the fight incredibly tense, not giving you much time to react. One of the areas that you get access to about halfway through the game is Sector 5 Arc. Due to the Metroid vaccine that Samus is given at the beginning of the game, you aren't able to enter Sector 5 when you first open it up, because Samus inherited the Metroid's weakness to cold. But once Samus receives the Varia suit upgrade that allows her to tolerate extreme temperatures, you begin to make a few excursions into the area. Everything goes relatively smoothly, but when you're returning from getting the ice missiles upgrade, something happens. Yeah, that is really startling when you aren't expecting it. This continues to happen whenever you're passing through this area, without the game really acknowledging or explaining it. It isn't until later that you're given a mission by your shipboard computer to go back to Sector 5 and hunt down a monster that is wreaking havoc. Once you receive this mission and make your way to Sector 5, you're finally clued in to what this abomination is. Nightmare, a biomechanical organism designed for military applications by the Galactic Federation, a monstrosity that possesses uncommon power and can manipulate gravity. Having broken out of containment, Nightmare has been running rampant in Sector 5, leaving much of the area in ruins, even resulting in parts of the sector defrosting and becoming flooded. After navigating your way through the wreck formerly known as Sector 5, you finally stumble across Nightmare. Tense music kicks in, one of my favorite tracks in the whole game, actually, and the fight begins. As your battle continues, however, weird things start happening. The eyes to his faceplate open up and a green ooze starts leaking out. After doing enough damage to Nightmare's gravity control device, the faceplate explodes, revealing the face of the biological being beneath, and its face is melting. Nope, his face is melting. What is even going on here? As you continue to fight Nightmare, his face, body, whatever, inside the mechanical exterior melts and deteriorates until it is almost falling out, before finally reverting back to the X-Parasite core the Nightmare actually was. It seems that at some point, possibly before Nightmare decided to scare the crap out of us earlier while flying around in the background, Nightmare was infected and killed by an X-Parasite. Doesn't make the whole face-melting thing any less creepy though. Personally, Nightmare is my favorite boss from Metroid Fusion, not least because of the creepiness factor. But there are still a few disturbing fights that the game throws at us after this. After discovering that the Metroids aren't as extinct as she was led to believe due to a secret Federation Metroid cloning facility, and that there are at least a total of 10 SAX running around, Samus runs across one of her most hated enemies, Ridley, brought back to life as an X-Parasite, and looking even more terrifying than he used to. After finding out that she has to set the station on a crash course with SR-388 to prevent the Galactic Federation from trying to weaponize both the X-Parasites and the SAX, Samus makes her way to the station control room, only to run across an SAX and have no choice but to defend herself. Having dealt with the SAX many times throughout the game, having a final battle with it is both satisfying and tense, especially when it becomes some sort of monstrous mutation of Samus toward the end of the fight. Sadly, before Samus is able to absorb it, the parasite tucks its tail between its legs and runs. Having set the station to collide with planet SR-388, Samus makes a desperate bid to return to her ship and take off, only to find that her ship isn't in the docking bay. When you turn to leave the area out of confusion, however, you're suddenly attacked by an Omega Metroid, the final stage of Metroid development. Unfortunately, you are unable to damage the beast, but the SAX that you defeated earlier shows up and attempts to kill the Metroid out of instinct, but to no avail. This does give Samus the opportunity to absorb the SAX's core and restore her Ice Beam functionality, however, allowing Samus to kill the Omega Metroid, clearing the docking pad for her ship to pick her up and fly off into the distance. And this isn't even close to all the creepy and disturbing imagery present within Metroid Fusion. These are just some of the moments that filled me with dread. There's plenty more within the game to scare the crap out of you, and it's one that I highly recommend. It takes the lonely, brooding atmosphere of the Metroid series and kicks it up a notch to something that I would call akin to horror. It may not be everyone's favorite Metroid game, but it's the one that sticks with me and gave me the most unique experiences to play. Hey there everybody, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I had a lot of fun making it and planning something thematic for Halloween. I came up with the idea toward the end of September I think, and made sure to get straight to work on it after finishing up my previous video to get it out on time. Hopefully you enjoyed it, I certainly enjoyed putting it together. Feel free to leave a comment down below about your thoughts on the video, and give it a like if you enjoyed it or dislike if you didn't. Thank you guys once again for watching, and I will catch you next time.